Now to a big decision from the U.S. Supreme Court today, ruling the Texas lawmakers did not intentionally discriminate in drawing political maps in all but one district. The court rejected claims that lawmakers intentionally discriminated against voters of color when they drew up the state's congressional and state House maps. The one exception here is Fort Worth-based House District 90, where the court said that lawmakers illegally used race as the predominant factor in deciding its boundaries. Dallas-Fort Worth attorney and constitutional scholar Byron joins us this midday with some perspective. Thank you for being here. First, were you surprised at this decision at all?
No, because when the court decided to grant cert and take the case, there were 5 votes on the court to allow the Texas maps to go into effect. So usually when there's 5 votes to grant a stay, those are usually, unless something changes, the 5 votes that would uphold the plan, and in fact in this case that's what happened. The same 5 votes upheld the plan, except for the one House district. And in that case, it's interesting, they did find that they used race as the predominant factor, but it was putting more Latino and Hispanic voters into a district to try to make it more Hispanic. And in this case, in fact, the court basically said Texas admitted it did that, and it was trying to comply with the Voting Rights Act when it did so.
For people who are living in that district in Fort Worth, what can they expect? What happens next?
Well, there's actually a couple lines in the opinion that say when opinions come down too close to the election, sometimes it's required that that map be used for one more election until it can be redrawn.
So it's not a dramatic change, right?
Not a dramatic change. Now, of course, it will affect surrounding districts. You can't redraw one without redraw others. So I think they'll try to redraw House District 90 in a way that has the least impact on the other districts and causes the least upheaval with people's voting registration in which district they reside in.
But again, that's not something we'll see happen right away.
If it doesn't happen right away, it won't happen until the next election cycle.
Got it. And lastly, for those who might have just been paying a little bit of attention to this, but not a ton, can you explain why this is such a big blow to a lot of organizations and Democratic lawmakers who are following this case closely?
Well, they were relying on a finding by the 3-judge panel that basically found intentional discrimination against the Texas legislature when they drew the maps. And even though the Texas legislature, based on the Attorney General's advice, simply just accepted the court-drawn maps, they wanted that finding because if you have intentional discrimination, it can cause you to get back under Department of Justice approval in the Voting Rights Act, and that's not going to happen as a result of this decision.
Okay. Byron Henry, thank you so much. Constitutional scholar, we appreciate your perspective this midday, and thank you for being here.
My pleasure.